Hey there, thanks for joining me today. This is Laura Lynn with KeepInkingUp.com. I'm an independent demonstrator for Stampin' Up! In San Antonio, Texas. And today I wanted to share how to make this one-layer card. There's no layers or embellishments on it. It's simply one layer. And it is using the beautiful Friendship stamp set that is in our new 2019-2020 annual catalog. I just love this stamp set. It was one that I had to order right away. It's so very pretty. So, to do this, I'm going to use a couple of different colors. I'm going to use Blackberry Bliss, Highland Heather, Gorgeous Grape, and Granny Apple Green. This is a single layer card, as I mentioned, and if you've watched my previous videos on cutting cardstock, you know that I always keep a stack of card bases ready to go. So I'm going to grab one of these card bases. So this is 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4 inches to make a standard A2 size card that'll fit in our regular medium size envelopes. I'm going to leave that right there so I can look at it. This stamp set is a photopolymer stamp set. So I am going to bring in my piercing mat. I always use my piercing mat when using photopolymer stamps. I just seem to get a better stamped image when I use this. And you'll notice that I also have left on the plastic packaging that it came in, and that just helps protect it and for easy cleanup. So I'm going to put this card right on my mat. I don't want to get any ink on the back side of my card, so I am going to pull in some Post-it tape. I bought this years ago on Amazon. This roll is lasting me forever because you can reuse it over and over again. So I am just going to place this Post-it tape along the score line so that I protect the back side of my card and only do the stamping on the front. Now in this card I used birthdays are the best days sentiment, but there are several really pretty sentiments in this stamp set. So for today's card I'm going to use this one, a very big congratulations and best wishes to you. So I have it mounted on my block, and I'm going to use the Blackberry Bliss ink pad for this. So I'll open that up. I'll ink up my sentiment, and I'll center this as best as I can on my card. There we go. Now, the Blackberry Bliss is notorious for staining stamps, so what I like to do is get as much ink off as I can, and we have this new stamp cleaning pad, and you can see I used it already quite a bit, and I'm going to dab my stamp in there, and you can kind of tell it's pulling out even more ink. Now this doesn't mean that my stamp will not get stained. It still will get stained, but hopefully the staining will be a little less intense. And then I'll pull in my Simply Chamois to finish the cleaning. So that's pretty good. It's still stained a slight bit, but it's much better than it would be if I didn't have that stamp cleaning pad. And we do have a refill as well of the cleaning fluid. So, so far I'm really liking this cleaning pad, and I highly recommend it, especially if you like to use dark colors like Blackberry Bliss, which is one of my favorite colors. So I'm done with that color. Well, I'm put it aside. I'm not done with it. I'll use it in a little bit. Okay, so now what I need to do is I want to mask off this this sentiment. Sometimes I stamp directly on my sentiment, but today I would like to protect it and leave it so you can see it completely. So I have punched out of just plain copy paper. You can tell this was recycled paper, using my pretty label punch. Here's the pretty label punch. So I've punched it out of copy paper, and I'm just going to put a little bit of snail adhesive on the ends so I can tack it down. Now this is a little too sticky, so I'm going to take my fingers and remove some of the stickiness of that. And then I'm going to place that over my sentiment. Excuse my head in the way, I'm just trying to get that kind of centered. Cover that up. I think that's pretty good. So now that won't move because it has a little bit of tackiness on it. And now we're ready to start stamping our flowers. The stamp set has so many pretty flowers in it. The first image that I'm going to use is the hydrangea, and I want to make note that I'm using the block E. Most of the time I use D blocks, which is this size block, or even the C blocks. I don't really use the E blocks that much, but these stamps are so big that you do need to have a larger block for them. So if you do decide to order this stamp set, do make sure that you have a larger block on hand, or if not, that you go ahead and add that E block to your order. So I'm going to use the Highland Heather ink for this hydrangea. So I'm going to open up my ink pad. Let me move this a little bit out of the way. I'm going to ink it up. But I want this hydrangea to really recede into the background. So I'm going to stamp off one generation of ink on my grid paper, and then I'm going to stamp it to the upper left of my image. You can barely see it, but it's just enough, just a subtle background in there. And I'm going to do it again, stamp off and rotate it a little bit and put it in the bottom right. Now I know that that's extremely faint, but again, I'm just trying to give it a little bit of a background, and I really want it to recede into the back. Now this ink color, I'm not as worried about it staining, so I'll go ahead and just clean it directly on my chamois. I do like to clean my stamps as I go. You do it however you wish, but since I do need to sometimes use that stamp cleaner to remove stains, I do like to go ahead and just clean as I go. So I don't have to remember, oh, this is a staining ink, this is not a staining ink. I don't have to think about it, I just clean as I go. So actually I'm going to use that Highland Heather again. The next image I'm going to use is this one, and I'm not sure exactly what type of flower that is. To me it looks like a peony maybe. I'm going to call it a peony anyway. So again, I'm going to ink that up in the Highland Heather ink. And I'm going to stamp that up here, going over the masked sentiment. And then I'm going to do it again over here in the bottom. Now you might notice there's a little white spot here. My stamp actually happens to be a little bit defective, and so I have contacted Stampin' Up, and they are actually replacing my my stamp set for me. That is one of the fabulous things about Stampin' Up. They have a really good customer service approach. So I will be getting a new stamp set because of that little dimple. There's a little defect in the stamp, so they're going to send that to me. So again, I'm going to wipe off as much ink as I can on my grid paper and then clean my stamp. So my stamp is ready to go next time. Okay, so now I'm done with the Highland Heather, and I'm going to move on to Gorgeous Grape. And for this color I'm using, let me find my stamp, a little rose stamp. I think it's a rose, maybe it's still another small peony, I'm not sure. I'm going to ink that up in the Gorgeous Grape, and I'm going to stamp it twice in the middle of these two flowers here. And this one. And then I'll do the same over here and this one. So I kind of covered up that little dimple defect in this particular example. Now this one is a little bit darker, so I am going to pull out my cleaning pad again and get off as much of that purple ink as I can before I clean it on my chamois. I have the chamois over off here to the side. So that's nice and clean. It's a little bit stained, you can tell, but not too bad. It would be a lot worse if I didn't have that cleaner. So I'm done with that. And I'm going to bring back in the Blackberry Bliss. And I'm going to use this image right here. I'm really not certain what that is, but I really like it. So I'm going to ink that up in the Blackberry Bliss. And I'm going to add a piece there and there. And then I'll add one on this side as well. And there. Now you can tell this is really dark. Clean it on my grid paper. And definitely pull in my cleaning pad because the Blackberry Bliss is, oh my goodness, that really stains. And this stamp is quite stained because I have made quite a few of these cards because I really liked it. So as you can see, that stamp is quite stained, but just because it's stained doesn't mean it won't stamp well. It stamps perfectly fine, and this will stamp a yellow color fine as well. Just because it's stained doesn't mean it'll affect any of the lighter colors. But this stamp cleaning pad really helps minimize the staining a little bit. So that looks pretty good so far. I'm gonna pull it up here so you can kind of see the depth of color that I have. You can see the hydrangea barely in the background there, and then the other purples in there. There's just a lot of depth because of the layers of the different purples that we have, which I really like because I am a purple gal. Purple is my favorite color. Okay, so now we're ready to add some leaves. And the stamp set has 2 leaf images. I've got one that has 2 leaves and one that has 3. So I'm going to take the one that has 3 and I'm just going to add them around my stamped piece here. Every time I do this, I add different leaves differently, but I'm just adding them kind of in and amongst all around. I'd like to go up right next to that. I like to stamp all the way around the masked piece so it really defines that image. I think that's enough of that particular leaf stamp, so I'll grab the other one. And I'll add some more leaves. Sometimes I can get a little carried away with the leaves. I think the green just really adds a lot. I think I'll add just one more here. Okay, I think that looks good. Like I said, every time it's different. So I'll close up my ink pad before I have a catastrophe there, and now I can pull off my masks. And you can see that would have been on the back side, but now that is fine. And I can reuse this one for several more cards. And now I pick up the mask from my sentiment. And I can also reuse this a few times, not too many because it'll get saturated with ink, but you can use that again. I'll pull this out of the way, and so now I can fold my card. I forgot to bring my bone folder over here. But there is another card, and it looks similar to this one. So anyway, that's a 1-layer card. I had so much fun making this 1-layer card that I actually did it with several other colors. So this example has blueberry bushel, seaside spray, looks like Coastal Cabana, balmy blue, and maybe pear pizzazz for the leaves. This is another blue one. This used Night of Navy, Pool Party, Coastal Cabana, and Bermuda Bay, and Mossy Meadow for the leaves. This one is one of my favorites. It's with the yellow. I used Mango Melody, So Saffron, Daffodil Delight, Crushed Curry, and Old Olive. This one used the new Terracotta Tile, Grapefruit Grove, Pumpkin Pie, Calypso Coral, and Garden Green. And this was my daughter's favorite, and it uses, Melon Mambo, Petal Pink, Blushing Bride, Flirty Flamingo, and Pear Pizzazz. So there's all kinds of different ones, and sometimes I use the circle mask, and sometimes I use that pretty label. But I just think these are so pretty, and purple, of course, is my favorite. But anyway, these are all single layer cards, so they're very easy to mail, and I think they look terrific. If you did want to step it up a little bit, here's another example using the same stamp set, but this has a little bit of dimension to it, and I used multiple colors on this one. So, but it's just really pretty. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and that you will want to get the beautiful Friendship stamp set. I just think it is beautiful, and it makes such pretty pretty floral cards. If you would like to order any of the supplies that I used on this card, I will provide links in the description box below to my online store, and I would very much appreciate if you placed an order with me. So thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.